And welcome to tonight's meeting. Today is February the 18th. Time is now 6 p.m. 2020. The regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Trinidad will now come to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Bill, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for coming to tonight's meeting. Can I have a roll call, please?
Goodall.
Here.
Griego.
Here.
McKay.
Here.
Ogletree. Here. Shu.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
Rico.
Here. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Does council have any changes? Would you like to make? Not, could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Call vote, please.
Goodall.
Yes.
Griego. Yes. McKay.
Yes.
Ogletree. Yes. Shu.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 3, policy items and staff reports. Anything from council? From staff? Item 4, petitions or communications, oral or written. Do we have anybody signed up? Tom Murphy?
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm Tom Murphy. I'm Murphy Funeral Home, Trinidad Times TV. I'm an all-around great guy, according to my wife, on some days. Not all. I've been here a long time, and I realize the value now in having sat here for 15 years of institutional knowledge. And when you look at Donna and Audra and Mike, and now even Mr. Downs has been here a long time. In fact, only Mr. Matei, I think, supersedes Mr. Downs. And there's a lot of value in that. But I've been here for 15 years, filming council. And there are a couple of things that it's dawned on me that I think I'd like to bring up, and I'd hope that sometime in the near future at a work session or a retreat that you guys would bring this up. The first one is council pay. I've been, like I said, sitting here for 15 years, and I don't think that you guys have asked for a raise in a long time. And I know that you don't do this for the pay, but I think it's been 10 years or more since the council has voted itself a raise, and I understand why you guys don't do that. You're not here for the money. But it should be somewhat commensurate, at least with a little bit of effort and the effort that you put in. And my suggestion is that you would look at Raton and Launton and Lamar and maybe Walsenburg and Pueblo and just see what they are and bring it up for a discussion. And whatever the budget was back when it was, if the budget's gone up, the overall budget's by 20% or 30%, maybe it'd be fair for you guys to receive a raise. Just a thought.
That's a good thought.
Nobody asked me to do this.
I said
I know
you're
what it is.
not.
I know what it is. I sit here because I'm passionate about this community, honestly.
I like you more and more.
I know. Whatever you want.
All right. The second thing is about the time that Mr. Matei came on, we just kind of resolved what somebody referred to as the recall wars, and those were tough times. And at that time, the charter, the way it was written, you had to resign from council in order to run for mayor. And it got so contentious at one meeting because one council member, I'm not going to use names, and I'm not going to give a lot of details, but it got so contentious, one council member had announced, and the legal advice and everything was that they had to resign. And it got so contentious that the person wasn't going to even step down. We came within a few breaths of having an officer remove them. Shortly after that, the council voted to change that, and not degrading lawyers because Les didn't write this, but the ballot initiative was written so that yes meant no, no meant yes. It was confusing. I would have addressed more of the paper at the time, but there were too many other battles going on. And I just think that it's worthy at this time, reflecting how the times were at that point, to maybe revisit that, because a couple of issues, and go more deep, but number one, the mayor has to run every 2 years. And when they did this in 1993, the charter, for home rule, the home rule charter, I think they were right, is that when you're running every 2 years, that's enough. And you recently, the council put in ethics, and you went through an ethics issue. So you have ways to address this. And I think that if you have somebody, and we get to the point like we were in the recall wars, that there's contention, somebody could have announced, and then you have disharmony on this council. And I don't think you need it. All I'm asking is that you bring it up, read what was put on the ballot, because it was confusing. And talk about it in a work session or a retreat or whatever, because I think if you put it on the ballot again and you were straightforward about it, I think they got it right when they originally did this. That's all I'm saying. So that's what I'm asking, and lastly, I don't think he would say anything, but I just want everyone to know that Mr. McKay was honored this morning by the county commissioners. So he probably won't bring that up himself in the council reports, but good job, Anthony.
Thank you.
It was well,
They caught me totally off guard.
yes, it did. They're sneaky that way, but that's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You have to explain those before I sign up. Tony Boone?
Caught me a little bit by surprise here. Didn't realize I was going to get.
You can lift up the,
Button on your right.
Oh,
No,
now
no,
you
no.
did it. I can't believe you broke her
So
mic.
lift
They don't allow me inside very much.
I know where that is, so you can put it down.
there you go, that's really good.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tony Boone. I live in Salida, Colorado. Some of you I know, or at least met before. I just wanted to give you some quick information. I had to bring some handouts to advertise that we are making great progress on Trinidad State Junior College's curriculum designed specifically for trail management and construction. I'm also on the Certification and Education Board of the Professional Trail Builders Association. This will be the first accredited program in North America, really anywhere. And so we feel like it's an awesome thing. I'm also blessed to be on the master planning team for Fisher Peak State Park with THK as well. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. If anybody's got any questions, there's contact information. I'm super excited to be here. I looked at property all morning. I will hopefully be a property owner here in Trinidad within the next week or two. So,
Oh, wow.
thank you for your time. I know you have a busy list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Loser?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm here in.
You vote for him?
Oh,
Let's do this one.
okay.
That way we can see you, Marilyn.
Whoa, I'm tall. That's why I like living in Japan. I towered over people. Thank you. I'm here to ask support for a bill that's at the House level now. It's HB 1223. And it has to do with rural arts funding grants.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that one more time? House Bill?
1223, 1223.
Thank you.
Yes. This is a grant that would provide $50,000 to start as soon as it's hopefully passed. That would fund artists and people in rural areas of Colorado. Similar to the 7-county funds that operate in the Denver area. This is outside of the Denver area, and it's strictly for rural funding. So the bill was presented last week. It will have a hearing on the 24th of this month. We have, and this is, I'm sorry, I'm on the board of Arts for Colorado, among a couple of other things. And this is a bill that we put together, and we're hoping that we can get it passed. So any support that I can garner from individuals, from councils, from whatever group it might be would be greatly appreciated. Again, this is a start. So hopefully it will be increased and will pass, so if you'll take a look at that and send your support, you can email me if you'd like your name as an individual or a group or an organization, and I will send that in a long growing list of support that we have for the bill. Thank you. Any questions?
Are we doing anything with that, Mike?
Actually, working through our lobbyist, Debbie Wagner, we're supporting that bill as well, so. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you
Okay.
very much. I appreciate it.
Consent agenda, number 5A, approval of regular meeting minutes of February the 4th, 2020, and a special meeting minutes of February the 10th, 2020, and February the 13th, 2020. Item B, consent to the removal of John Carabino from the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority Board with the city's expression of gratitude for his service on this board. Item C, approval of bills for $1,219,078.58. Item D, approval of the payroll February the 8th, 2020 to February the 21st, 2020, on the amount of $341,777.11. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, okay, you have a correction?
Yeah, on the February 10th, meetings on the special meeting, minutes on the special meeting, we're in the second paragraph down that talks about, the special meeting. It says that the special meeting will be held immediately preceding the work session, and it was after the work session, so.
Any other changes? So with the change, with the approval, call the roll, please.
Goodall?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Ogletree?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item 6, public hearings, we have none. Or item 7, unfinished business, we have none. Item 8, under miscellaneous business, 8A, consideration of appointment to the Arts and Cultures Advisory Commission. Mr. Jay Dory, I think you're in the house. Thank you very much for the application. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on it? Call the vote, please.
Goodall?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Ogletree?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item 8B, consideration of appointment to the Library Advisory Board. Mr. Terry Brown, can I have a motion? He's here, or something?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
second. Any discussion? Call vote, please.
Goodall?
Yes.
Griego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Ogletree?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Item C, consideration of Space Creek Commons architectural drawings. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion on that? Molly, I think you have some information for us?
Yeah,
Or is it Maryland or both? Which one?
can it be all three of us? We're all
Okay.
working on it. Wally Wallace, Economic Development Coordinator, and this has been a joint project between the city and the Creative District, and then also Jeff is the chairman of our new oversight board for the Space Creative Commons. So the three of us have been working really closely on this, and we just figured you all would have some questions. You all have copies of this, correct? Okay. And so these are the plans we've kind of, we've been working with HHL, but they were the architects for the entire project, which the entire project is moving along really well.
Do you not have any video on anything tonight? So council could, so people in the audience can see, is it dead or is it?
We didn't have this
On their
on the PowerPoint.
All right, we'll continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
So HHL has been working on the entire project through Art Space. Residential areas are going really well. They're supposed to be opening as soon as June of this year to be filling those. This section that we're showing today is actually the portion of the building that will be managed by the city. We have a 15-year lease of us running this whole roughly 20,000 square feet, and then having an opportunity to buy it out at the end of those 15 years. So we've been working with HHL to create a design that really activates that portion of town, has multi-uses, hopefully allowing co-working space in there, hopefully a restaurant eventually as soon as we can find the right fit for it, retail spaces, a community gathering space, and hopefully something creative and interesting for that back garage portion over time. A lot of what will be put in there eventually will be determined by the market. It's going to cost us roughly about $10,000 a year for the cost of just maintaining this building, or no, not a year, a month for the maintaining of this building. And so we will need to lease it out to the folks that can help us cover those costs over time. And those costs will mainly just be for maintenance, utilities, things like that. Our actual rent of the space is $1 per year from Art Space, and that is because we have made the investment of the initial matching money for the grants needed to apply for this project. Do you all have any questions about the actual floor plan?
Mr. Matei, do you have any questions?
Not really, go ahead.
Right. Gives me time. Ms. Grego?
I'm trying to put together the photos that you have on this first page that shows the front of where the garage is at.
Yes.
Yeah, and so then the picture to the right is of the restaurant cafe. So in that picture, there's a garage door here, so that is the front of the building. I'm trying to put it together.
Yes.
So that's
You
to
mean
the
the-
west of the entrance?
So the garage door of the, next to the
Right
restaurant?
here.
Right?
Where it- yeah,
Okay.
the-
Yes.
So one of the goals was to be able to portion off spaces so that, let's say, the restaurant had different hours of operation than, let's say, the restaurant in here had different hours of operation than the area in blue, the very last address.
Right.
So that garage door was a way to partition off the different sections. We basically have a far section here on this very far edge,
Uh-huh,
this center section that has the restaurant, and then this red area, which is sort of that big garage entrance when you come off of Main Street.
right.
And the goal there is to have a very public area where that garage door rolls up and events can kind of spill out into the street. Maybe there's music or a lecture or something going on inside this red area. And those garage, go ahead.
Do I understand in the picture on the right
Yes.
above that? That garage door is not the exterior garage door.
Correct.
It's
That
an
is an
interior
interior
garage
garage
door
door.
to separate those designated spaces.
Correct.
Okay.
And there are two of them in the space right now as designed.
Right.
We're all doing that value costing right now.
Okay.
Yes.
So is there separate ingress and egress for each space?
In a way, so there were, to just kind of circle back to some overall goals, so first of all, we certainly saw this project as an economic development project. More than, let's say, just a place for the community to come and gather. Space to Create, at its heart and at its core, is an economic development project. We want it to be an economic development engine. So we want to build in economic development features. One of those is co-working. One of those is a very flexible approach to retail and economic activity. So, for example, this blue area is kind of open space for pop-up retail, very flexible retail. To compare, the original plan that the drawings that the architects delivered to us had 3 retail storefronts in here. Now we all know that we have empty retail storefronts in Trinidad, and we don't want this city project to necessarily compete directly through some type of subsidy, where it's kind of subsidized with all the great commercial work going on. So we want this to be an incubation space. So somebody could put up a bull cart to table, kind of like Mount Carmel does, where people are starting to grow their business, And the restaurant is kind of tight in there, so people can come, grab a cup of coffee, wander through some tables, look at what people have to sell, and make it a very flexible, active space, really to develop people's businesses. It's worth noting that the Space to Create residents can't sell or do business out of their spaces. They can't sell or do business out of any of this space in white because of the restrictions of the funding. So those people are gonna need places to do their business. So we're trying to design this to be very flexible, not make any hard decisions or assumptions that we'll be tearing walls down in a year saying, oops, that was the wrong decision. We're not demoing walls, we're not building a lot of new walls, we're trying to keep costs low and keep the design very flexible.
Any other questions, Karen?
No, sir.
Frank?
Well, particularly in the open space, the garage area.
Yes.
I know it has a high ceiling and stuff like that. Are you gonna continue to just leave that like that?
One of
That's
the
the
re-
plan.
Yeah, one of the
There's kind of an
requirements
offshoot there,
of
too.
the historical grant fund was that those tin ceilings will be hung in there.
No, not in the garage.
In the red
garage.
area?
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about the
the
garage
blue area.
area,
Oh,
because
the
it's
blue
such a
area.
big area.
Yeah, yeah.
To
The
heat,
blue area.
that's the only concern
Blue
there,
area
is
is
that's
a
an enormous
big,
area
big
there to.
Question. Yeah. It's such a big space, an uneven floor, that big rafters is what to do with that big garage space. Right now, we don't have any particular plans for that big blue space. And we'll be putting together like sell sheets, like prospectus for this space, so that we can go out to different businesses, maybe try to attract somebody, some big business from Denver, something to put in, I don't know, a grocery store, we don't know. But, it's a tough space.
To what extent is it being renovated at this?
That is the last space to be renovated.
Okay, and it's not being defined with what I'm hearing you say, any finished product, so to speak. So what's being done to it from a former condition to what it is now? It's cleaned up.
It's
Pointing
cleaned up.
walls, ceiling,
I'm sorry,
Pointing walls.
pointing walls
Okay.
and sealing the walls, perhaps scrubbing and sanding the floor and sealing the concrete floor.
The big ones of it are gonna be adding restrooms back there and, egress. Right now, it's, like, ideally, that would be a place where we can have a pretty large assembly of people, but right now they have the egress for only 60 people in that entire huge space. So we are putting egress stairs out of the back of the building, making corrections to the ramp that doesn't.
I was gonna say, yeah, that ramp is still there with the garage doors.
They are taking that out and they're replacing that with the courtyard. And that is because right now there's problems with when it rains or anything like that.
Right,
All
'cause
of
it
it
goes
shoots
down.
right down that ramp and fills the garage with water.
The patio lot right up on that top flat area there where it's like a little vacant lot.
That's
That'll
ours.
still be green
Yeah.
space and,
Yeah.
utilized.
So yeah, that's to be decided exactly what it will be for. The other side will be the parking lot for the residents. But yeah, so those are the major costs that are going into this garage right now, is addressing the egress and just access of restrooms. That is, that is the part of this project that has been the most difficult in working with ArtSpace. And right now we're still kind of working with them to find some solutions to some of the things of cost overruns that they've had. And basically they don't have a plan right now to fix the roof over that back portion of the building. And they have kind of passed that cost on to us, but that violates the contract that we've signed with them. So we've been working with the state and with them to really try to assure everybody that that will not be passed on to us. But that is the biggest struggle that we've been having so far, is finding those things that they're basically, they went over costs and they're just trying to pass those on to us. And so that's the biggest one. And it's gonna, and that roof itself is about a $200,000 replacement. And so, just last week I was on the phone with people at the state office, and basically they're making sure the wording with their grants are that they can't get those grants until they replace that garage. And so, we're really working on that. That has been the biggest struggle since I've probably come to the city, actually. So.
I'd like also to add quickly too that the original, cost fee for plans and such was $110,000. And having worked with, HHL through, the last couple of months, you know, we've really cut down things that were on that initial planning, so that what we want is a CO, we want flexible space that can turn into just about anything that the community needs. But their last estimate, and we'll look at new fee schedules coming up shortly, was $15,000. So that's a tremendous drop from 110 to 15. To be able to get into the building, to utilize it, to get a CO, to have it safe and, you know, exits according and up to code and all of that. So that's been the.
That's probably a good point to clarify, is this idea of getting the CO and getting some of the space activated. So the one address where the core zone will have an office and Wally will have an office
210.
is this 210 that has the brown and then the blue. So that's a combination of offices where we want to create basically a hub of economic development resources in there. So we're talking to the SBDC about where they bring clients, they can come in there and meet with clients. Perhaps the chamber can have a cubicle there, Wally will have an office there, the creative district. And this space is almost done, like this space is in really good shape. So we're hoping to activate this space this summer. The rest of this, like, you know, kitchens are expensive. And we need to make sure that we have the right person who's gonna wanna move in there before we spend that kind of money. So there's definitely, this is the proposal we wanna work from and we wanna work towards. This very much may change depending on what we find in the marketplace. Somebody may come to us with a different proposal. This first section right here, we feel very confident in, and that this can be activated this summer. And start to create that activation and that, like, that economic development engine.
No questions.
Rest
I'm good.
Aaron?
I had one quick question. The big open space in the back, I know you mentioned potential for coming into that grocery store, whatever, something like that. Would the how would the access work for that through the red space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be the main access. It would also have a side door entrance from where the current ramp is.
Where would the side door, where does that access to?
It's side.
Yes.
That access is to,
No.
And that's the next one.
Yeah.
oh, it is on the,
Yeah, there is an exit there. I do think we would have some issues. We'd still need to have the red space open because of ADA accessibility, because there will be stairs to get down from that side entrance. But there is a side entrance there. But that is, like Jeff said earlier, that's the reason that we put the overhead garage doors in throughout the building so that we can.
that's what I was thinking you meant, but I wanted to make sure, and then my next question was ADAs. I have got it.
ADA is definitely very, very addressed in this drawing. It's yeah. ADA and egress were kind of where we started and then worked our way out from there.
I do have a question. I'm not super familiar with this type of drawing. How is ADA compliance assured prior to construction? Is that verified only by the engineering firm, or is that verified through a secondary process?
I could probably address that. This is all gonna require building permits, and through our code consultant, we'll review all that and ensure that all the drawings are correct. And then as they construct, our building inspector will go out and make sure they're building it to compliance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one other question. This is for the first floor?
Yes.
What's the, you have any plans for the second floor, or is this just gonna be
Second-
right now?
Second floor is all the residential, and
Okay.
those are already looking very far along. Yeah, I actually encourage you all to go take a tour of it sometime, because I was just in there 2 weeks ago. They have the entire place.
Does
Does
it have elevators? Or?
They don't. They have a handicap accessible entrance from the back parking lot. So that is the access.
And you can't exit, get into the front of it from the first floor in any of this area here?
No.
No,
So you have to go from the back, and it'll be mostly up.
for residents.
Well, from the back, and there are 2 entrances on the front, but they're not ADA accessible entrances.
Yeah, just a question. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
But I would suggest you take a tour also. The Elm Street location, you can see as the floors are constructed, and they're up to the 3rd floor now. But this is kind of that hidden portion in the Main Street part, so you can't really see too much. So it would really behoove you, I think, to go take a look at it. It's moving along quite nicely.
I wouldn't want to go and just walk up and ask them.
That would give you a hard hat.
They're so friendly.
We can,
Yeah, I can come by.
would like
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
schedule
we
like
could
a work
schedule
session or
like-
Totally.
Absolutely.
You're very inviting, suggesting that we tour, but at the same time, you got a bunch of guys that are trying to do work.
Yeah.
And the last thing you need is a steady stream of people coming through with interruptions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't serve anybody's interest to have that kind of chaos happen.
But you're city council, that's,
Well, okay, so what you
I thought
said will.
that run-of-the-mill
We're coming
people
in.
wander.
I have some questions here for you guys that I
Yes.
think are important. One that I saw, according to the plan here, one of the biggest expenses in any kind of facility, whether it's residential or commercial, are bathrooms.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have 6 bathrooms within a real small area. Why do we have 6 bathrooms?
Part of, originally we actually had it with 1 large bathroom in 1 portion of the building, but the way that it was, we wouldn't be able to manage the whole building with access to that restroom. Basically, that section of the building would have to always be open, but we just don't have the manpower and people to actually be able to manage the entire space all the time. That's the reason that we kind of put these doors to block off certain entrances. But we can't block off the bathrooms if we're using the back garage. We can't block off.
Why do you have a bathroom there back in the circulation room? That was the one that I questioned more than anything.
Back of the what, I'm
The
sorry?
circulation, right next to the circulation room, that doesn't,
Oh,
cause I think that any of the bathrooms on that side, those 2 baths, cause they have to be ADA compliant,
Yeah.
men and women,
Yeah.
and they should have access with just those 2 bathrooms in that first circulation, that bigger one. But that one in the back, I just don't see it.
There is some vision that last long blue rectangle, that's sort of being left to be, maybe we could attract a retailer to go into that space, let's say a bike shop or something. And then that restroom could serve them, but I think that's a valid question to go back to HHL to say,
Yeah.
maybe does it need to be 2, and should it be, is there another way to value engineer that to where they can?
Cause
And
if
I
there's a way
think-
to cut a little bit of cost, that's the
Oh, yeah.
way to do it.
We're all about that.
So the other thing too, I was wondering is in that, back area, that big, large back area,
Yep.
how big of an entrance is going to be there? Is it, you said that ramp going down is kinda tricky. How big of an entrance is going to remain?
From the red to the blue, or from the,
From the outside to the
Blue to the
side?
blue to the outside, how big of a?
I think it's,
that's a single,
if I remember correctly, it's a double door, that goes out to that courtyard, and then, what is that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I bring that up, the reason is that you're kind of trying to figure out how to make this thing pencil. Being that you don't have a way right now to figure out how to utilize that space, is if you could use it for a rental for somebody who has older vehicles or something like that, where you could bring some money in. I think that's a consideration that maybe you guys could bring in for now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give that some thought. The other thing I had is, in the original amount, when we were short that $875,000, and we went up to Denver, They came back and they gave us another 300,000 to be used for finishing that space.
Yep,
That's still there, correct?
yes, that is.
Just wanna make sure of that.
Yeah, and it's actually funny, they almost gave it to Art Space, and then we talked to them and we caught it in time.
Just wanna
and
make sure
yes.
that is still intact.
There's that, yes.
Wanna make sure of that.
But I do have to note one thing on that. That is last in funding. So we
Right.
only get that money when we have every
That's
other
correct.
dollar to match this project.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I mentioned way back, you have a kitchen drawing in here, and somebody mentioned to me a year or two ago that the college had a complete kitchen that's stuffed in a corner somewhere. They never used it. You might inquire to see if they still have it, if that's something that it's gonna be, if you are gonna make that a kitchen, they might donate it or sell it to you guys at a reasonable
I
cost.
talked to Donna about that, and I think what's that education grant? Begins with a P. That grant paid for them, and so they're like, their hands are tied, like they can't donate them.
It's been sitting there for
I
years.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we've heard as well, like
You're gonna
somewhere in
talk
a
to-
closet somewhere is a whole bunch of nice
You're gonna have to
equipment.
talk to Dr. Edward.
Yeah.
Get her on the phone.
A lot of these grants have time limits, so maybe it's been
Yeah,
long
maybe
enough.
that's
So,
true.
yeah.
So anyway, those are the questions I had. Thank you guys.
Good.
Any other questions from council?
I did have one concern.
But
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Mayor, about, money being saved, but sometimes, money spent up front on a project is better to just build it right once, so the cost of the.
I agree with you there, but at the same time, you gotta look at the feasibility of it, if it's really feasible and
Right.
like that.
If it's being purpose-built with a decision to be separated for a potential retail space, it would make sense to spend the money up front, because remodels are a lot more expensive.
I'd still love to see just one bathroom there instead of two, even if that just saves us a little money and then we have the plumbing ran to it to be able to install
We
something
keep
later.
going to one bathroom and saving money.
Yeah.
In a house, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
In a public facility, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Try and go to a bathroom during a Bronco game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Yeah,
trying
no,
to be
totally.
Right.
We talk about eliminating the bathroom, yeah, I know, but you've got 500 people in there. You maybe don't need to eliminate a bathroom when you're
Yeah.
going to try and accommodate that many people. Particularly if we're trying to turn a profit and make this a money-making enterprise,
Mhm.
why would we want to limit it to just 2 bathrooms that handle 4 people?
Yeah.
No, we want as many bathrooms as may be necessary to accommodate thousands of people going through there on a day.
Well, 300.
Whatever. I haven't been in the back of that in a very long time, but when I was a car dealership, there was a service area.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
had storage and stuff, so the point being, there's room to put several vehicles. The car shows are a really big deal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Look what happens in Pueblo, at the state fairgrounds, when they have a car show, they get people from all over.
Mhm.
They come there to take a look at this.
Yeah.
That's a good place for that to happen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the layout on this too depended on, buildings are 3 separate buildings, so the levels of the floors are somewhat different from one to another.
Right.
And for example, the kitchen is placed in that location because that's the only spot in the 20,000 square feet that's only a single story. So for ventilation and for
Yeah.
hoods and all of that
There's
sort of
some
thing.
reason that went into this.
Yeah,
right?
and the whole center part, the Toller building is slab on grade, so trying to locate plumbing and bathrooms and all of that, is much more expensive to have to dig through concrete and
Point made.
refill. So, there were a lot of funny little things that went into the reasoning behind locations of various parts of this, so.
Okay, I talk loud and fast, I hope I didn't offend you with my comment.
Oh, no, not at all. No,
All right,
we've
let's
asked
go
the
ahead.
same
Thank-
questions, so.
thank you, guys.
Thank you
Well,
very
Mike-
much.
Go ahead.
If I may, I have to add this because, we handle the budget, we need money, we're negotiating, like Wally said, regarding the roof and the 200,000 and, us getting a complete envelope of the building, including our roof over our garage, and we're working on that, but, the intent was to push hard to get these drawings done and have, the contractor that's there complete that, so they provided an estimate based on these drawings, that need to be looked at closely, and we just got them, I mean,
This morning.
this
Yeah.
morning. But I'd be remiss if I didn't tell council, and that came in at 1.7,
Yeah, close to 1.8.
almost $1.8 million. We have 300,000, and, how much do we have?
I have it right here. We have 470,000 right now, with an additional 30,000 likely coming very soon. Hopefully, 198,000 coming from you all.
Fourth quarter.
Yeah, and so, but even with that, we're still not even quite to half of like what this final
Thank you.
cost will
And
be.
they are
Yeah.
working hard, the group is working hard to find funding, grants,
And
hitting every resource possible so we can leverage what they have, but council needs to know that
it's still,
it's still up there. to finish
but
this
that's
thing.
also, and that is also a big piece of why this project is being broken up, why he emphasized having a portion of it ready to open this June, but us establishing plans to continue raising money to finish the kitchen. Because at 1.8 is the entire building completely finished. That includes the roof that we're talking with them about. That includes what today you broke out about 350,000 of costs that they're trying to pass on to us that really shouldn't be going to us because it's part of the exterior,
Part of that envelope.
which they have signed a contract that they are responsible for finishing of the entire exterior envelope.
You know, when they brought us the pro forma for the building, I had some serious questions about some of their estimates, just to let you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and they grow every time.
So I just wanna let you know that.
Yeah.
Construction.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions, call vote please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Grego, Matei,
Yes.
Ogletree. Yes. Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes. Item 8D, resolution authorizing the expenditure of marijuana revenue received by the city of Trinidad for the fourth quarter of 2019. We have a motion, please? We need a motion first.
Yeah, we'll do the motion then.
Need a motion and a second first.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
And then I'll say a couple things and I'll start at your end. The amount is, for that fourth quarter distribution is $1,141,333. With the 5% that we give out is $9,375, for a total of $1,219,833. And there is a balance that we still, that there's still $69,125 that we are going to put out to see if anybody wants to, have it. So, Cheryl, what do you got there?
So just as discussed in our work session, the council will be approving $1,219,833 for fourth quarter marijuana allocation. And that stems from a collection of, $3,775,000 of marijuana money for the entire year of 2019. That number is unaudited. There's a couple late fees out there that we intend on collecting, but it's right around in that ballpark. The total allocations for projects in 2019, 65% share, equal $2,450,000. And then the total allocations for outside funding, if approved this evening, will be $188,500.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Cheryl, I did have some questions. Thank you for being here tonight. And I know we discussed this, but in 2019, $314,000 are subsidizing the general fund.
That's correct.
And then I did look back in 2018 it was 460, and 2017 was 310. So that's a total of 1,084,000. I just wanted to say, I know controlling budgets is difficult, but I think it's something we really need to focus on as a city to control that as these funds won't be here ongoing. And I also wanted to mention too, I think it's a real positive. What's the overall the reserve fund at?
The reserve fund, we anticipate adding an it should end up at around $2.5 million.
The total fund?
After the audited amounts come in.
And I mean, that's a huge success and something that we can be proud of. So, you know, you hear that question a lot. Where do the marijuana funds go? I love that it's so easy to access. I think the people in Trinidad need to be made aware of that so they can go look. But just one concern I have is that we control that because the best indication of future behavior is past behavior, and so for 3 years we've been really reliant on these funds.
That's why I brought that up at our work session. I said that's something that we need to work on, trying to not use that in the near future, so that that's why I mentioned that.
No, absolutely. It's just, I mean, we'd go through, if that goes away, we'll go through the reserve fund pretty quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have.
Okay, Rusty.
Nothing.
Karen?
More of a comment than a question. So just, everybody's worried about the revenues dropping, decreasing, so I contacted one of the pot shops and I asked them, just because we definitely don't know what the whole 2020 is gonna be. So I called them, I said, based on your sales for 2019, give me a percentage minus or plus for 2020 as opposed to 2019. The person I talked to, and I won't tell you what shop I called, but it's a pretty big one, their revenues for January were down 20%. And I asked, why are you having less people? And she said, no, what's happening is just like any other commodity, they're having to do sales on marijuana. So it would be nice if we had some kind of mechanism before we figure out what we're gonna spend out of this marijuana money. We could figure out kind of a more educated guess as to what revenue's coming in. It might be just something that happened with this shop and not all the rest of them in town, but I'm really reluctant to set a budget for 2020 without knowing.
I think the weather might have had something to do with it because this year it's been kind of crazy out there.
Well, evidently, there's one shop in town that's doing sales and
Did you say it was a 20% decrease on
1 month?
January.
January 2019.
Okay.
And I think, I know this isn't probably the appropriate time, but I'd really like to hone down on this.
Okay. I think we need to. That's something that we do need to continue to monitor all the time.
Right.
So, if I can interrupt, when we go through the work session for first quarter 2020, you'll have actual figures, and at
Okay.
that time, you won't allocate any more than what's available. So that'll keep
So
you
when
safe.
do we do the budget for this?
We'll collect March sales tax by April 20th, so we probably have first quarter allocation first meeting in May.
Okay. I just didn't wanna make any projection.
No, I think we can because of the way we have that 65, 35, I think that controls it. Anthony?
Well, I appreciate it, to everyone's concern about being frugal and conservative with marijuana money, that's good news. Santa Fe, on the other hand, walked away from marijuana for the state of New Mexico, so that in terms of customers is really encouraging for us for the time being. But it has always been our opinion, I thought, that marijuana was not the new coal.
Right.
Marijuana was a stepping stone to get us some solvency, to be able to catch up on some of the things that we weren't able to do and put us a little bit behind. And now that we are in more sync with reality, by being able to catch up just a little bit, we can maybe move carefully and cautiously away from marijuana as being a steady source of income as we look into other avenues available to us. Yes, ma'am.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
I think those are good points, but I think as the market changes with different states that legalize, we need to think about not letting it die, but figuring out how do we bring it forward and do it better and continue to have it as something that people come to Trinidad for. So I want us to consider the consumption clubs at some point along the line, because I think there's that would be positioning us to do something right along those lines, as long as it was done properly.
Can I comment to that?
Sure.
I think it's definitely a transition for us that we need to look at to make us a destination for the marijuana. For sure, with tours, hotels, tours, consumption clubs and everything will help us transition as sales decrease. I think that's gonna be important.
One more question and I'll finish up.
Well, it's more a comment, but, one of the things that may be wise to consider, it's often hard to go look at other places to find a model and see how this is working in other places, because I think we're pretty unique. This industry is new and unique. But, I mean, certainly there has to be some way to use some of this money, to commission a study of some sort that would help us to anticipate what the road would look like as other states legalize. I hear a lot of talk, I don't have any expertise in this industry, but there is a lot of talk of people wishing to become, say, the equivalent of Napa Valley for wines, but for marijuana. So it might make sense to have a city-funded study of some sort to anticipate that. Not to say that we would consider it continuing ongoing revenue, but how long is this gravy train in existence, and how best to prepare for the transition to something else? Just a thought.
Okay, I'm going to finish up just for the audience sake here. I know we didn't put anything out tonight, but the 65% share, there was $314,000 that went to the 2019 general fund subsidy. There were the general fund sick leave accruals, liability transfer, $350,000. To the 2020 horticulture, which all the plants that you see around town during the summer, is $30,333. The community center gym floor refurbishing is $20,000. The children's museum garage door refurbishing is $15,000. Noah's Ark interior is $198,500. The space to create commons is $198,500. The boards and commissions, fourth quarter, is $15,000, and that was the $1,141,333. And then we're starting to do this is the last year for the youth club on that 5% share. And what we're going to do is we're going to graduate that out rather than all of a sudden $50,000. And so starting with that, the end of the year was $9,375. So we have fourth quarter allocation that's still available, like I mentioned earlier, for $69,125. So that's where that's at. Call vote, please. Thanks, Cheryl.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Ogletree,
Yes.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes, item E, first reading of an ordinance repealing and reenacting section 2-15-6 of chapter 2, administration, article 3 of the Trinidad Municipal Code regarding council meetings and setting a hearing date for consideration of said ordinance to March 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. Is someone to introduce?
I will gladly introduce.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Council, any discussion? Mr. Matei?
Hold on, just a minute, I'm trying to catch up.
I'll start with Aaron on the other end and catch up to the back end. Later.
Any comments on
No
this?
comments on it?
No
Nothing from
comments,
me.
sorry.
I wasn't clear. It seems as though we're deleting not only council reports, but also reports by city manager and city attorney. When will those happen?
Work session.
work sessions.
I'm not super comfortable.
Okay.
That's not something that I think is a great idea, especially the city manager. I think, I'm not sure how we do all this yet, but I would like us to move to some kind of a schedule so that we know that this time of year, we're gonna get reports about whatever's going on in this part of the city. Because I'd like more information, not less information.
And just to speak to that, I don't believe it will limit the amount of information that is given. Part of the rationale for this, and I know all of council knows this, but part of the rationale is so that staff doesn't have to take minutes on what all of us are reporting on. So if Mike has a really lengthy, and I know Mike doesn't usually have a really lengthy city manager report, but if he does, you will get the same information without staff having to memorialize everything that was said by Mike in his report. So again, it won't limit the amount of information, and also at the beginning of the meetings.
Let me do this.
Sure,
Let me go down
sure.
to council and see what their thoughts are before you.
No, I'm fine.
I am as well.
Is the concern record keeping? Is that correct? And having to take minutes and
Yes.
and do all that. So what's gonna happen during the work sessions?
Well,
Are
work
they
sessions,
not recorded there as well?
they're recorded by Mr. Murphy, but we do not keep minutes of work sessions.
If what we're hoping to accomplish is to minimize the effort necessary from staff to make record of these kinds of things, maybe we can make adjustments to how we do things rather than eliminate that we do things. And this is what precipitates my comment. Meetings are governed by agendas, otherwise they get unruly and really out of control. And it's important that we do that. But oftentimes, an agenda can be particularly limiting as to what can be discussed, all right? When I was writing tickets with patrol, okay, if somebody ran a stop sign, there was a stop sign ticket.
Right.
If somebody was speeding, you had a specific ticket for a specific violation, for a statute for a specific violation.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was also careless driving, which was driving without due regard for the width, the growth, or the use of the streets and highways and all other general circumstances, as you know. And the point being is, when there were things that didn't specifically fit as maybe a topic of discussion, didn't fall within a particular agenda item, there was a means available to address that behavior. Or in this case, a means available so that we can express thoughts and concerns and minimum discussions on items that are important. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if eliminating council reports, and you know how much I like to talk, if eliminating council reports means that we're gonna be limited to the items on the agenda, there's a lot of things that are of significance and importance that won't come to the front. And I think that defeats the purpose of government. If what you're saying is the only purpose is record keeping, maybe why can't we?
I'm sorry, no, I don't mean to interrupt. I just want to say that.
Let me chime in here before you go on that, and I'm talking about with Mr. McKay on this. And one of the things is, we need to do this not for council, we need to do this for the people out in the audience. The audience is what really should be the ones that are concerned about this. And I understand that a lot of times when we do a report, there are some miscellaneous stuff that could be done during a work session. But there are sometimes, and I think we can all control that, items that are substantive that need to be recorded, but we need to recognize what those items are ourselves. And I think the mayor, whether I'm here or somebody else is sitting here, should be able to control that, to say that is not an item that we need to bring forward. That it should be something that the audience really needs to know about. That's where I have an issue with this ordinance, the way it is. I think that having miscellaneous stuff during a work session, I think it's fine. But there are items that I know that I bring forward sometimes that are very substantive, and I know that you guys do too. So that's my concern.
If I could, please, Mayor, thank you. The rationale and what I was thinking when I had suggested this is that in policy items and staff reports, things that are going to be happening in the future or announcements that you would like to be making would be made in that segment. And so what I am proposing, and part of the rationale for this is to kind of reduce the amount of things that are discussed in terms of what we have done. By we, I mean you, but what you have done for the past week, a couple of weeks, since the last meeting. Part of what motivated me to think of this is that just an observation from this council, and that is, I think there is more discussion and about things, and I think that's great, that's wonderful. I don't want to limit that in any way, but I think there is more discussion rather than less. Items seem to get more thoroughly vetted and kind of processed now than they used to. And I think the tendency is, I believe this is now the 4th meeting of 2020, meetings are going on longer, notwithstanding executive sessions. That too is okay. But being mindful of how long it can sometimes take to talk, especially about the things that have gone on since the last regular meeting, and kind of limiting that, what I would respectfully submit is kind of unnecessary information for purposes of the length of the regular meeting, the staff taking, minutes, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, and maybe all of you know this, but minutes are very formal, very precise. We have they're like books of immortality that the minutes go into. So when we make corrections, that's appropriate, but everything has to be exact and really kept, a very accurate record of. So if there's any way we can kind of reduce all the discussion that goes on at the regular meetings, I think that's a good thing. Not issues and not things that you really want to thoroughly talk about, but discussion that may be arguably unnecessary that can otherwise take place in work sessions.
I think this is what I'm thinking, and I've been thinking about this a lot. And I think before we move forward with it, I think maybe that, I know that we're scheduled to have a public hearing on this, and the public should get involved with it, because they're the ones that are, not gonna hear some of this information. Because typically during work sessions, we don't have this many people here, we might have 3 or 4. So the people that are here on a regular basis, I see somebody back there shaking her head, yes. So that's concerning to me. So I think that maybe what we ought to try to do is maybe try it for a few meetings with having just council report on substantive items that really concern, that will affect the public, and those miscellaneous stuff we carry forward to a work session. That's my suggestion. So we could either table this, or we could keep it going. It's up to you guys. We can have a regular hearing on it. So, any further discussion?
To your point, Les, about the minutes, I'm a minutes reading kind of person. And it's helpful to me to remember and to look back, oh, that's the information we got then, and that's the decision that we made then. I don't like the idea that the information is gonna be in work sessions, that it's gonna be transmitted to us in work sessions, because there won't be minutes of that, and I'd have to sit down and watch a whole YouTube presentation to figure out what happened, and that's I don't like that. I don't think that's good for us in terms of keeping track of what we're trying to get done and what has been done.
Okay, I just, the information I'm talking about is really like other, attendance of subordinate boards and commissions and meetings and things like that, and I get it. I mean, it really is a wonderful thing in terms of all the things that you guys have accomplished in the preceding 2 weeks. I understand that. But I would just say, and maybe I'm guilty of having a short attention span or whatever you call it, but I'm not sure that is really informational, from my humble perspective, really information that needs to be preserved for forever. Right?
I think that we can exercise discipline on what we say and what we share.
Right.
And
That's right.
Keeping the staff in mind and their poor hands, they're trying to write.
And that's where
But that's not my big issue. My issue is more the reports by city manager and city attorney that we're removing from the agenda, and I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay.
Any other comments? Call a vote?
Goodall,
What are we voting on?
Yeah.
Move forward to have the ordinance, to have the public hearing? On this ordinance?
Yes, we'll move forward to a public hearing.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
No.
Shu,
Yes.
Williamson,
I'm sorry, we're voting on what specifically?
To move it, to set it for a public hearing and second reading.
No.
Rico.
No. Okay, the vote is 4-3, it moves forward. So we'll have a public hearing, and people in the audience, welcome you to be here at the next full public hearing to voice your opinion. Item F, first reading of an ordinance defining mural and providing for a moratorium on the installation, creation, placement, or other application of murals and structures within the city of Trinidad corporate limits, setting a hearing date for consideration of said ordinance to March 3rd, 2020 at 6 p.m. Someone introduce, please. Okay. Motion?
Second. I mean, sorry.
Okay.
I'll do both.
Okay, discussion, who has information on that for us?
Do we have a second on the motion?
Yeah, I think we have
Yeah, I
a second.
got it.
You got a second. Frank
Who
did.
made the motion?
Who made the motion then?
I think Karen, did you?
She introduced.
I introduced.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get it, let's get
First-
it straight.
Yeah, we need a second.
Okay.
Then I will second.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
All right.
It's smart.
I didn't say anything. And Mayor, council members, if I could please, there is an amended version at your seating places. There were a few corrections, and I just want to direct your attention to that. And if I could, since I'm doing so much of the speaking tonight, since you asked who was going to talk about this, I would just like to say that, like so many things in city governance, that until council can adopt reasonable regulations and really kind of control, if that's what you decide to do, murals, I would submit to you that a moratorium is necessary. And that is why why we are coming forward with this. And I understand that maybe council's intent and desire to have many murals. We have just spoken about, though, having, if you do that, having different concerns and amounts of regulation depending on the zoning classification, with the highest regulation being in the historic preservation zoning classification and then descending from that point. But in any event, that is.
Okay, questions?
No.
This is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I've seen a couple of murals around town, and I want us to be very mindful as a community. What do we want Trinidad to be? Do we want Trinidad to be a mural community? Do we want Trinidad to be a historic community? Do we want to preserve and protect our historic buildings downtown? And murals are really, they have infinite meaning and understanding on them. There's a couple right down the street from my office, and people will come by and tell me, God, I love that mural, and somebody comes by and say, that is disgusting. Why did they do that to that building? So I think we need to make clear what we want for downtown Trinidad. There, like I say, there have been a couple of murals that have popped up already, and Mr. Downs is completely right. We need to stop and really look at this and decide what we want for Trinidad, and more importantly, what Trinidad wants for itself. And I think that, for that reason, I think the moratorium needs to be instituted.
I agree on skipping that, so we can be considering.
I agree that it's a community conversation that we need to have, and the only question I have is, what's the next step to having that conversation? And
At the public hearing.
okay.
Rusty.
So I agree with the moratorium. I think we need to definitely look at how murals are regulated to make sure they don't fall in line under sign codes, because that's gonna play a big part in when we move forward, because with the new sign codes in Arizona, the Supreme Court ruling and stuff, content cannot be part of your regulation. So my main concern with murals is where they fall into codes and if they are classified with signs, and that's my major concern with murals.
We look forward to having that conversation on all these points with you, and right away, I'm not gonna, but thank you.
So you're aware of some of the.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Aaron?
I would agree with the moratorium just on general, my personal feelings, but, how, is there any other cities that have dealt specifically with this? Do we know? I mean,
I can't imagine there's a city that isn't dealing with this subject. And we will have, when we have an ordinance to bring forward, I mean, after much discussion, when you give us instruction and direction on what you want to do, we will give you examples of ordinances from many communities. Mr. Wallace is dealing with this, and I am, and a representative from the college. I mean, there are a lot of people who are dealing with this, but there are examples of fabulous murals. I don't want to sound like a really staunch proponent of them, but there are wonderful murals. So there are many examples of communities that are dealing with this, and I'm sure probably many communities that don't want murals at all. But we'll give you many samples of murals and regulations from communities and in sample codes.
is there any immediate concern that it can trigger like freedom of speech or personal expressing oneself on personal property? I mean,
Well, it can, but it's a subject that can be regulated by a governmental entity, especially in places of commerce, and especially in a historic district where we have.
so there's precedent for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes.
That's all I have.
Frank, you have one more question?
Yeah. When I was on council before, didn't we have this issue come up with the murals and that? And we had some kind of, guidelines to set this? Do we have any guidelines at all set up for this? As far as putting them on the buildings?
We have sign code provisions,
Right.
but I don't believe, I'm looking back to staff, which I do, and I don't know the answer.
Well, I don't think we have any provisions. I know there was once an issue with the color of a building being painted. And, that was a big controversy at the time. As far as murals, you know, we have several groups, city boards that want to bring them forward. We're working through, this moratorium allows us the time to better vet what people want to do and get them in front of the correct boards. The advisory board that advises council, and then decisions are made on getting an A on the mural. So I'm trying to work through the process so that everything that's been said is brought forward.
The only thing I have to tag on with, Eric Williamson is saying is that, I guess legal term of it is they're a use by right on private buildings with them being able to do it, and that's the thing to
Right, and no, it's not a use by right.
Excuse me, I got a piece of an email, and I'll have to see if I can dig it out. But part of the problem, the way I understand it, it's a legal thing. The artist owns the piece of art, and the building owner owns the property. So once the artist paints that mural, that's theirs. So if the building owner wants to tear down that building, he can't tear down that art because it doesn't belong to him.
Sounds like a law school essay question.
That's true.
There's a walkway on Main Street in front of hospital, and it has a picture, I think, of Frank Sinatra, maybe one American.
Yeah.
Did we not actually commission that to be done? No.
Yeah, I think it was a volunteer.
But, okay, did we support it or encourage it? My point is, it seems to me at some point, murals were encouraged, and maybe that's an inappropriate word, to help with unsightly situations.
Right.
And we thought, this is a good thing. And maybe it's not a good thing, like, I don't think that we would wanna put a mural on the side of the Blue Mansion. Or what the Blue Mansion is, but there maybe are some areas that it would not necessarily be that much of an issue.
There were a number of smaller, like drawings that were done around town.
Drawings,
You're absolutely right.
You know, it was murals for some, I mean, graffiti. It was graffiti before it was murals.
Right.
And as murals go, that whole, well, river thing you follow.
Right.
I mean, that went for miles.
Right.
And good, bad, or indifferent there it was. A lot of it's gone now, but I mean, it was in the Guinness Book of Records for the world's biggest mural.
Wow.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, call the vote please.
Goodall,
Yes.
Griego,
Yes.
Matei,
Yes.
Ogletree. Yes. Shu,
Yes.
Williamson, Rico.
Yes. Item G, consideration of North Lake Dam Rehabilitation Project, RJH Consultants Contract Modification. Could I have a motion? Second?
Second?
That was, we started out with X number of dollars. Now they're asking for $60,000. We recently okayed $80,000. So between the two additional items, it comes to $140,000. And when it comes around to me, I've got a question on that, so.
Sure.
Mike, what you got?
So, I'm not sure what you said is correct. The original contract was $80,000.
Is that the original amount?
Yes. $40,000 was for the initial design, and then $40,000 for the engineer to be on site and watch the installation of the pipe in North Lake Dam. If you recall, the compressed fit lining that we went with was pretty innovative. The contractor came in, we had a change order here before you on the installation of that contract back about a month and a half ago.
That's Mike, that was one.
Yeah.
Right, so that was for the contract to install the compressed fit lining pipe underwater. We didn't have to drain down North Lake at all. They were able to do it on site. With the engineering came the state dam inspection office wanting complete oversight and having the engineer on site the entire time. That wasn't factored in to the original quote. With the innovative process of the compressed fit lining, the engineer had to be on site. Well, if you recall, the lining, the first time out, they had to pull it in, they had to pull it out, they had to shut down, demobilize, remobilize. This is the contractor doing the work. With that, the engineer had to be back on site. Just adding $60,000, nothing is cheap these days. This digging the dam would have been more expensive to get down to those pipes. So is my recommendation that we move forward with this. Along with this, not to exceed $60,000 are all the reports required by the state dam inspector on this. So that I'll answer any questions.
Okay.
It seems like the state is saying you gotta do this.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a typical unfunded mandate, I understand that.
Pretty much.
Okay, and it's our drinking water, so that makes it pretty significant. And I feel that our hands are tied, but I also feel that it's a reasonable and logical thing to support.
Yeah.
When it says here on the background information, Mike, that it's not to exceed 60, does that mean that there's a possibility that it would be less than 60 or 60?
That is correct. The way the contract was written in the beginning was based on engineers' hours, office hours, staff hours, trips down. So based on that, they'll charge based on unit cost for man hours of the chief engineer, the project engineer, and all, So it could be lower. That's.
Is weather gonna play a part in this as well?
It did already.
Yeah, right.
We're kinda in the process. They're almost, complete up there. I have to apologize if you see the letter from the engineer. It came January 21st. I didn't get it before. I could have had it before you a little sooner. So.
I have no more questions.
You know, other than it's pretty much on schedule what we wanna get it done.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes. It's adding years of life to the
Right.
dam, to that old pipe, by putting that liner in it.
So are you saying, I'm just trying to understand, so you're saying the slip lining was an idea that came about after we entered this contract?
No, that was part of the original, I've been to council several times with this, the original design was to excavate, try to do that, compress fit line, pull a new pipe through, there was another option. It was determined that this was going to be the best process for us, the compressed fit liner. So all the drawings were performed, all the specs sent up to the state. They came back with a lot of concerns and questions because of the innovative process. So back to engineering and back and forth, and got to the point where we contracted with a diving firm and the compressed fit lining firm to pull these through.
So we weren't expecting that the state was gonna have so much oversight issues that came along with this?
Correct, that and the fact that the contractor, the first pull, wasn't satisfactory with our engineer or the state. They had to demobilize, bring in a little more pipe, and do it again, so it added time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much gonna be on schedule, no more delays, no more money, this is gonna wrap us up this go.
That's correct.
Perfect.
Mike, I mean, every project has a life expectancy, but excluding, say, an act of God or unforeseen circumstances, what's the life expectancy of this?
Of this lining,
Yeah.
I don't wanna misquote, but I believe it's 50 years. It's HDP pipe. It's,
What
you know,
what
the
wall thickness?
I think the wall thickness is 1.1, something like that.
So it's a poly pipe.
Pretty much.
Okay. That being said, if we didn't do this, we would have been subject to immediate replacement of the existing pipe. Yeah.
Yes, it is part of the inspection. We have yearly inspections on our dams. And every 3 years they run a camera up and down these intake pipes. The last time the state engineer said these need to be taken care of. So that's what started the engineering process.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
You know, we have to go forward with this regardless of it. The big question I have is that, you know, now they're saying that the engineer has to be on site. Is that something that happened when they had to go out and come back in? Is that just, or have they always been on site?
They have been on site. They've been on site for 2 periods now.
Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say, if that just came on, I was gonna say, shouldn't it have been the engineer's responsibility to say there's gonna be this? Okay.
Another question.
Okay, how do we have funding in place to pay for this?
Yes, we do. That's out of the CIP, line item, North Lake.
Thank you.
Rehab, yes.
Okay, thanks. Call roll, please.
Goodall?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes.
Matei?
Yes.
Ogletree?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Being that we still have a council report, anything that, council wants to really, it's substantial? Okay? Here?
Nope.
You're doing this to spite me. I do not feel guilty, people.
I got a whole page.
Just kidding.
I got a whole page of stuff.
I yield my time to Rusty.
That's right. Mike, you have anything?
No, wait, I do have a couple of things I do wanna bring up. So, are we still under warranty with the, tennis court projects from resurfacing?
Just 1 year.
So it is done and over, cause there's deterioration starting on the courts. I had the Park and Rec meeting last night, and they were bringing up those concerns if we were still under contract. And so then, Mr. Lackey is coming off of Parks and Rec Board because he's left Trinidad and back to Raton. So even though he's a business owner, he can't serve on any boards, is that correct? I wanted verification on that. Vince, he lives out of state.
I think that's, yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
Was that pertinent enough? Was that okay?
That was good. That was
Alright, I just didn't want to be violating no new
The
rules.
new guidelines.
Those are the type of things that I said, bring forward.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Okay, you're on, if you got anything.
I do, just very briefly, and I hate to buck this trend. I just want to let council know that I'm going to be bringing forward a proposed moratorium on hemp cultivation in the city of Trinidad. Hemp cross-pollinates with marijuana. And when hemp cross-pollinates with marijuana, it basically ruins the marijuana crop. And so I just want to let you know that while we're doing moratoriums, that's another one that I'll be bringing forward.
See, that's what I'm talking about, some substantive
See,
information.
I don't think I violated the new rules.
Is that, are both crops ruined? I mean.
No, and somebody was explaining this to us today, but with the marijuana, the male plants are pulled. So it's only the females that one hopes is going to flower and not be pollinated. And so if the female marijuana plants are pollinated with the hemp, then that is ruined. The hemp plants themselves, I don't know if they get pollinated by the marijuana. No, they don't, because it's only the males who as it was explained to me, only the males do the pollinating. And I don't mean to discuss biology, but if the marijuana cannot pollinate the hemp because the males are all gone. Well, I didn't think I was going to have this conversation. But,
I didn't know sex ed for marijuana.
That's right, yeah. Is there any questions? Yeah. No, just.
Okay.
Follow that, Mike.
On to
Yeah.
On to item 11, executive session. Item 11A, for a conference with the city's attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS section 24-6-402 4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402 4E, and or for a conference with the city's attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS section 24-6-402 4B. 1, contractual matters. 2, ongoing litigation. Motion to go into executive session. Second.
Second.
Call vote, please.
Goodall?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes.
McKay?
Yes.
Ogletree?
Yes.
Shu?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Rico?
Yes. Okay, there's not gonna be any afterwards, no vote afterwards, so.